Welcome to Deranged. Usually when a man meets a woman, they start texting. First date, second date, and if all goes well, this is the result. But some couples turn into this. Welcome to Deranged's exploration of killer couples. In this video, we will take an in-depth look into the minds of some of the most notorious and twisted couples in history. We will look at their motivations and the gruesome acts that made them infamous. Be prepared for a chilling journey into the deranged behavior of killer couples. Bonnie and Clyde were an infamous criminal couple who terrorized the central United States in the 1930s. Born in Texas and Oklahoma, respectively, Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow lived a life of crime from the age of 18. They robbed banks and stores, stole cars, and murdered law enforcement officers trying to apprehend them. They were eventually killed in an ambush by law enforcement officers in 1934. Bonnie and Clyde have been romanticized in the media and portrayed as Robin Hood-like figures, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. But in reality, their crimes were often extremely violent, and they were responsible for the deaths of at least 9 people. The 80s have often been called the golden age of serial killers. No place on earth was this more evident than Los Angeles. One killer couple's crimes would shock even the most hardened police detectives. The Sunset Strip Killers. Carol Bundy, no relation to this guy, and Doug Clark, also known as the Sunset Strip Killers, were an American couple responsible for a series of gruesome murders in 1980. The pair began their killing spree in June when they murdered 2 women in Los Angeles. They went on to murder another 4 people and attempted to murder 3 more. The couple's relationship was violent, and they both had an interest in sadomasochism, the occult, and necrophilia. The couple were arrested in July 1980 and tried in court. Doug acted as his own defense counsel during his trial, portraying himself as having been manipulated by Bundy and blamed her for the murders.
I'm Douglas Clark. I've been on death row for 13 years, been involved in this case since Carol Bundy accused me of her crimes.
This ploy didn't work, and the couple were sentenced to death in 1983. Carol Bundy died in prison in 2003, and Doug Clark remains on death row. The Sunset Strip Killers were convicted of killing 7 people, but the number may be higher. The Oliver Stone movie Natural Born Killers was released in 1994. The film tells the story of 2 victims of traumatic childhoods who become lovers and mass murderers and are irresponsibly glorified by the mass media. Many fans of the Violence Fest were unaware that the movie was based on a real couple, Charles Starkweather and Carol Ann Fugate. Starkweather and Fugate are infamous for their killing spree across the Midwestern states. Starkweather was 19 years old, and Fugate was only 14 at the time. The couple killed 11 people between December 1957 and January 1958. The young lovers' killing spree started on November 30th, 1957, when Starkweather killed Robert Colvert, a service station attendant, with several shots to the head. The pair then drove to Wyoming and killed 2 more people before returning to Nebraska. They killed 4 more people in Nebraska, including 2 of Starkweather's friends and Fugate's family. They then drove back to Wyoming, killing 3 more people. Starkweather and Fugate were eventually arrested, and Starkweather was tried and convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. Fugate was convicted of being an accessory and was the youngest woman in American history to be sentenced to life in prison. She was released in 1976 and currently lives in Michigan. The Starkweather-Fugate case is often cited as an early example of the serial killing phenomenon and has inspired several books, songs, and movies. While Wayne Williams was perpetrating the Atlanta child murders in Georgia, across the country in Sacramento, California, a married couple were taking depravity to new levels, also known as the sex slave killers. Gerald and Charlene Gallego were an American couple who committed a series of murders in California and Nevada between 1978 and 1980. The couple, who had a tumultuous relationship, would abduct, rape, and murder young women and couples. The victims were usually hitchhikers or couples they encountered at parks or other public places. In total, they are thought to have murdered 10 people. The couple's crimes were notable for the brutality of their methods and their frequent use of weapons and firearms. They were also known for their lack of remorse and attempted to control their victims through psychological manipulation. The couple claimed that they committed the crimes out of a desire for sexual gratification. Still, experts now believe Gerald was driven by his violent impulses, while Charlene was more of a willing participant. Charlene would later tell a cellmate how ecstatic she felt during the murders. In 1997, Charlene Gallego completed her sentence and was released from prison. During an interview, Charlene claimed that she was also a victim when she said,
There were victims who died, and there were victims who lived. It's taken me a hell of a long time to realize that I'm one of the ones who lived. I tried to save some of their lives.
In 2002, Gerald Gallego died of cancer in a Nevada prison medical center while awaiting execution. In 2023, this massive movie enthralled audiences worldwide, a live-action Barbie and Ken movie. In the early 90s, the world was transfixed by another couple, the Ken and Barbie killers. Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka were a Canadian couple who raped and murdered young girls in the early 1990s. Bernardo was a serial rapist known as the Scarborough Rapist, who terrorized the Scarborough area of Toronto for several years before meeting Homolka. The two were married in 1991, and Homolka became an accomplice to her husband's crimes, helping him to kidnap, rape, and murder teenagers Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. Homolka also allegedly assisted in the rape and murder of her sister Tammy. After the couple were arrested in 1993, Homolka struck a deal with prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence and testified against Bernardo. After serving her 12-year sentence, Homolka was released in 2005, and Bernardo remains in prison indefinitely. The case created shockwaves in Canada, with the public demanding justice for the victims and highlighting the need for harsher penalties for violent offenders.
Feel justice was served then? Justice will never be served for these girls.
On the 25th of February 1993, a confession to manslaughter blew open one of the world's most disturbing killer couple cases. Fred and Rose West were two British serial killers convicted of the rape and murder of young women and girls from the 1970s to the early 1990s. They were also responsible for the disappearance of at least 9 other young women, though their bodies have never been found. West was accused of killing at least 12 people, while Rose West was charged with killing at least 10.
I know how they will kill. Because she knows do that to a girl once. She did so much damage to her that she had to fucking kill her.
The couple also murdered their daughter Heather and buried her remains underneath their patio. Many of their victims were found buried in the basement and garden of the couple's home in Gloucester, England. The couple had also committed incest child abuse and tortured their children, adding to the severity of their crimes. What happened to this depraved couple? Did the victims get the justice they deserved?
Frederick West, accused of 12 murders in Gloucestershire, has been found hanged in his prison cell. West had been in custody for 11 months.
Rosemary Pauline West. On each of the 10 counts of murder, the sentence is one of life imprisonment.
The West's case is considered one of the most horrific in British criminal history. Killer couples are a fascinating, yet unfathomable phenomenon. Although the motivations and dynamics of these relationships vary greatly, there are specific characteristics shared by many of these couples. These include a lack of empathy and conscience, a desire for power and control, and an intense connection and loyalty to one another that is often rooted in a shared sense of victimization. While these relationships can quickly become dangerous, they also provide a unique and powerful bond between two people. That is, until they get caught. Coming up soon on Deranged, how did a suburb in San Francisco become a breeding ground for serial killers, mass murdering cults, and a CIA mind-altering project that may just have caused all this deranged behavior? Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for upcoming deranged content.